Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilove, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. Welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project, and thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a great show for you today with another fantastic guest. Her name is Shelly Piaggio. She is an entrepreneur, a business owner. She's a mom, a grandmother, and she is probably the most courageous person that I've ever met in my entire life, because recently she just took a leap of faith, and I mean that literally and figuratively, because Shelly jumped out of a perfectly good airplane, and she's here to tell us her story. So Shelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm just delighted to be here.
I am so excited to have you on the show. I've known you, we've known each other probably about a year and a half, I think, and just kind of really took a liking to each other right away, but I had no idea there was this other side of you that existed.
I do not come across as someone who's a daring adventurer on any level. I mean, it's too bad that they're just listening to this, because if people could see me, they would probably be flabbergasted. But
well, you know, it's not about our appearance, because it could be that is part of your ninja disguise.
There you go. Hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Hiding I took your tagline.
So tell us why you decided to jump out of a perfectly good airplane.
I wanted to do something that would help me overcome fear, to push past the boundaries of my comfort zone. And I find that if I do little things, I get little results. And if I do big, ginormous things that terrify me, I get bigger, better, more profound, longer lasting impact out of that. So I'm always looking for ways to stretch myself, to push those boundaries, and then use those experiences as like a allegory for my life. So then when something minor that might stress me out crops up, I can go, oh, come on, look what you just did. Look what you just pulled off. If you can do that, you can do this little thing that has been holding you back for so long.
So I'm really curious, some of the other things that you did that were smaller things, because jumping out of an airplane, to me, that would be like, you know, definitely the high end of the spectrum. But what were some of the smaller things that you've done along the way?
You know, I'm a personal development junkie, so I've done a lot of things. I've done the fire walk, you know, Tony Robbins fire walk.
Wow. You refer to that as a small thing?
Really, I think that was smaller to me than jumping out of the airplane.
Okay.
And yeah, it was. So the first time, but I've done it 4 times, because I've been to Tony Robbins more than once, and I've been to other people that also do a fire walk. And so the first time, it is this big, magnificent thing. Yes. And the first time I saw Tony Robbins on an infomercial, I was at a point in my life where I had no money. Like, we couldn't hardly even eat. And so to go to one of his events was financially, and we didn't even live anywhere near where he came to. So it was a bucket list thing to go to Tony Robbins. And it took me over a decade to put myself in a position to go. So when that happened, it was ginormous. But now looking back, because I've done firewalks enough times, it's not as big a deal as it was that first time. That first time when you're really having to overcome to do it. So I guess that's it. It's not that it's a small thing. It's just that been there, done that. And I've repeated it. And it's good. And I love firewalks. They're great. But I don't have that nervousness to the same extent. I mean, you don't walk over burning coals and not feel nervous.
Right.
But I know I'm going to come out the other side of it unscathed.
Basically, you've just proved your own point, that when you do something that is very anxiety provoking, or something that, you know, you're fearful about doing, once you do it and you come out unscathed, then all of a sudden it's not as scary as it was before. So if you do it another time and another time, it's almost like you get used to it, or it's the bar is starting to be set a little bit higher. So you have to go for something a little bit more challenging than what you did before.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting in this? There was a event that I went to, and so a lot of times the personal development things will have some type of an exercise where you are breaking through your barriers and your boundaries. And I had gone to one where you break an arrow with your neck, which is, again, and you see people do it, and you know everybody in the room is going to do it, and they've got hundreds of people crammed in this room, and you know that if it were really that dangerous, they'd get sued and they wouldn't be doing this with hundreds of people every single weekend all across the country.
Good point.
But it's still a terrifying thing, which is what I tell myself too, with the skydiving and the whitewater rafting and the firewalk, all of that. So I did it the first time, and it was the first time like my first attempt, I couldn't quite break it. So then if you don't do it right, it hurts. If you do it right, it happens and it's poof and you're done and you celebrate. So I hurt myself because I didn't quite commit enough the first time through. A couple of years go by, and then I'm bringing my kids to this event because I want them to have this life-changing transformation that I've been able to experience. And they have you in groups of 8 to do it. So you're in a circle and we're all celebrating each other's success. We're helping out. But part of it is the people who've done it before have to hold the arrow for the people who haven't done it before. Because you're holding the arrow. Oh, I can't do it without visual, but one person's holding that arrow up against your neck, and the arrow is pointed into your neck, and there's somebody pressing it with some pressure, and then you have to bust through it.
Oh my gosh.
And it breaks the arrow. And I think it's balsa wood or something, which, I mean, I don't know what the trick is, but it is still scary. But what I found was when I was holding the arrow for other people, and by the way, my kids were not in my group because they didn't want to do it with Mom. Thank you, Lord. But there's 7 people who I've never met before in my life, but I'm the expert because I've done it before. And holding the arrow for those other people was scarier for me than doing it for myself, even though I screwed it up the first time I did it. So it's interesting where you go to different levels of breaking through barriers and overcoming your limiting beliefs and your obstacles and all of that.
So as both a ninja who's used to sharp objects and not wanting them anywhere near her neck or throat, and a physical therapist, just knowing the anatomy, and I'm having a hard time visualizing this. I know it's possible to be able to do it, but I'm just thinking, I really don't know if I could participate at either end, because I can appreciate what you're saying, that if you're the one that's holding it and you're the one who's in the know, you want to be really supportive to the other person and make sure that they're successful, and hopefully nothing will go terribly wrong.
I don't have the medical background you do, so that ignorance is bliss.
I guess.
I think ignorance is bliss. I think sometimes when you know the thing, it makes it even more terrifying. So maybe if I knew some of those risks, but again, and the thing I always tell myself is, you wouldn't get to do this with thousands of people. Right. Tens of thousands of people do this. The liability would be so stinking high if they hadn't figured out a way to make it very low risk. And I think they inflate the things on the waivers. You could die, you could be maimed, you could whatever, you're reading that stuff. And some of those things, they deliberately inflate the danger, I think, to kind of give you more of that experience. And there are true dangers. Mm-hmm. But even like with the skydiving, when they're doing the safety video, if there's negligence, if there's gross negligence or gross misconduct or you're not going to sue us kind of thing. So they amplify it. So they're covering their butts. And these commercial enterprises, they wouldn't do this for income, as an income stream, to provide these adventurous experiences, if they hadn't figured out a way to do it that was actually safer than it appears and safer than it feels.
So let me just ask you this. In that arrow breaking event, which is making me cringe, I'm covering my neck. In that event, did anybody in the room, did anybody fail? Was there anybody in the room who was unable to accomplish it?
No, because somebody's going to stick with you until everybody in the room has their victory. Mm-hmm. And so if there's somebody who's struggling and maybe they're the last 2 or 3 people in the room, because you have circles of 8 and there's all these groups of people, And then when your group is done, you celebrate, and then you go around and you look at somebody else's group of 8, you help them celebrate. And then after a while, there's one person in the room who just can't seem to get it done.
Right.
And they're terror-stricken and they're terrified and they just can't pull it off. Well, then the speaker or the facilitator is going to come alongside and they're going to get that extra TLC, because when you're doing personal development, you have got to give everybody some kind of a breakthrough experience. That's the whole point. Mm-hmm. So in anything, even on the skydiving, so most of the people I skydived with were more fit for sure. And it's like they live a life, like the weekend after that, they all went ziplining and they do this stuff. That's their life. I'm stuck at home with the grandkids. That's not my life as a general rule. So there was a guy who'd been skydiving 7 times before, and he wandered into the airport and he came back out and he said 2 things that filled me with comfort. He said, the least experienced, because it was a tandem jump, the least experienced tandem guy has over 5,000 jumps. And then the second thing he said is, and they pack their own parachutes. So then they take the person who's going to be the least likely to sail through the experience with ease, finesse, charm, and grace. And then they put that person with the most experienced skydiver. So my skydiver guy, his name was Jason. It still is Jason. He
managed to survive the jump, is what you're saying.
He managed to survive the jump with me attached to him, but I was jump number 10,200. Oh. So they put the person who's got the capacity for the most things to go wrong with the most experienced person on the airplane. And these guys are in it for the thrill. I mean, they like the free fall part of it. You know, when you're plunging downwards so fast and the wind's whipping your face like a dog with its head out the car window and their ears are flapping and they're loving that. And that's kind of what it felt like when you're going through the free fall part. He was like the dog, loving that part. I liked it a lot better after the chute opened.
Okay.
After the chute opened, it was a lot more fun.
So I want to backtrack just a little bit because it was something that you said. I'm still going back to the arrow in the neck, so I guess I'm going to be having nightmares tonight. But this is so funny because what you said, when I asked you is that the arrow?
This is one of them. I've done this exercise several times. So for those of you that are listening, I'm showing her my arrow so she can see. It's not a super sharp point, but it is sharp enough that you don't want it.
Okay, yeah, that would be sharp enough to be able to do damage. Trust me, I'm holding up an ink pen and I could do a whole lot of damage with that. So, but what?
And then you can see the where it was broken.
Oh, I see that.
So I keep it on my desk
as a reminder of what.
As a reminder, and I put the goal that I was breaking through. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is I don't remember when I did this. It was years ago. I haven't hit that goal yet. Mm-hmm. So it's on my desk as a constant reminder, and you think that's supposed to propel you through to what you're going to accomplish. But I just keep failing forward.
It was just funny because when you were talking, I was asking you if there were people who didn't or weren't able to do it. And you said, it was kind of a little bit of a pun, that, oh no, we really stick with them. And I thought, stick, arrow, that was really kind of funny. And then you said something else about getting to the point. But there's a guy in town who has these business breakthrough boot camps. And he always has, at the end of the first day, he has a martial artist come in and have everybody in the camp, and there's like at least 100, 200 people, break a board with their hand. And the very first time I was there, and I'm like, you want me to break a board? And there was a woman sitting next to me, and she thought I was afraid. And she says, oh, don't worry, you'll be able to do it. It'll be okay. And I'm like, I'm not worried about doing it. And I said, I'm a martial artist, but in our art, we don't break boards, we break bones. But, they talk you through everything. And, the skeptic that lives in my head, I thought, oh my gosh, these are going to be boards like they use for the little kids to try and get them excited about, mommy, sign me up for Taekwondo. And they're already like pre-cracked or pre-cut. And all you have to do is just push on them and they break. And no, this was real pine. And it was actually a significant piece of wood. But and everybody in the room was able to do it, but every group or every time they do it, there's always 1 or 2 or 3 people who just can't do it. And before you know it, you've got the entire room behind them screaming and, shouting their names and encouraging them. So it really is a community event.
Absolutely. And I think the people who struggle when you have that much encouragement, I think you have that much better of a memory to take out of it.
I would think so, but I think at the time that it would be happening, like if it were me, I would probably say, everybody just go away and leave me alone. I want to be by myself with the instructor and let me figure it out. So, but I mean, I just remember being in the crowd and cheering some of these people on. And one of them was a man who was a big, burly guy, but he just couldn't get it. And it was actually because of some previous injuries that he had had to his neck, to his arm, you know, that whole upper body complex. So once he did do it, it was just a huge breakthrough for him. So it's very empowering and very exciting, even as an audience member, to participate. Yes. And to see somebody accomplish something like that. It's just really amazing.
Well, and do you still have your board?
Oh, no, I have 3 of them, and they're over there in the corner of my... I'm down here in the FemiNinja Girl Cave, and on that wall is my weapons rack, and on the wall behind me, you might be able to see I've got my martial arts belts, and on that wall, I've got my boards propped up. And I do have the limitations that we were trying to break through. Everybody wrote down what they're trying to break through. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience. But awesome. I really don't think I would ever jump out of an airplane.
Well, never say never. You might.
Well, that's true. That's true. So what made you decide that you wanted to do this? Did you wake up in the middle of the night one night and say, you know what, I think it's time to jump out of a plane?
No. Oh, heck no. I was always one of those same people who thought it's insane to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. But way back in the day, I used to have a mortgage company, and I had a loan processor who loved to jump out of airplanes. I mean, every chance she got, she was skydiving. And she was a tan of skydiving. I mean, she was just out there hanging out with all these skydivers all the time. And
let me just interrupt you because you did it again. Hanging out with all these skydivers.
These puns are so unintentional. I can't believe you're catching them because they're going straight over my head.
Again, over your head. There you go.
Anyway, there was, you know how sometimes when things happen in your life and there's this dichotomy of people? Mm-hmm. So I had a friend and she slipped on the ice and she fell down and she broke her tailbone. And she was in a wheelchair for, I want to say 5 or 6 months, completely helpless, completely incapacitated. Oh. And I had this loan processor who one of her jumps went wrong and she broke her tailbone skydiving. Oh. She took 2 days off of work, put an ice pack on her, Fanny got a donut, and then went about her life. And she was skydiving in less than, it was maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks till she was back to doing this thing she loved. And so I saw this one person milking it and just, oh, woe is me, I'm the victim here, and life has gone sideways. And I see somebody else going, there is nothing more empowering than you've got that cord in your hand and you pull it and you save your own life and you know you can conquer the world. And so these 2 people who were in my life at the time, and I was like helping the one person make grocery store runs and stuff like that, listening to the whining, and then I'm listening to the other one who's just unstoppable with this amazing spirit. And I'm going, wow, I want to be empowered like that. I want to feel the way that you feel when you do that extreme sport. And I'm not an athletic person, so any sport for me is a challenge. Extreme. So yeah, it really is. And so I had it on my list of things to do, and I decided, because no sane person jumps out of an airplane. You just don't. I get that. So I'm in my 30s, and I put it on my bucket list, and I'm going to do it when I turn 50. I'm going to celebrate my 50th birthday by jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. But on my 50th birthday, I had an opportunity to do something cooler. And so I did another adventurous thing that pushed me in every way possible for my 50th birthday. That was like a week in British Columbia, and it was amazing. And so it's like, okay, well, I didn't do it for 50. And then I was going to do it for 55. And when I was 55, I didn't have anybody to go with. Well, I don't want to do it by myself. I need to have somebody with me to celebrate that with me. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, it's in the back of my head. I didn't do it when I'm 50. Well, that's okay, because I did something cool. But I didn't do it when I'm 55. And then it's like, what the heck? What is wrong with you? Just freaking get over yourself. And so I do an accountability call with some people who do the same thing for a living that I do. We call it inspiration and intentions. And one of the gals was talking about her intentions, and she was putting together this event, and she was really vague about it. She didn't say what it was or anything, but she had all this coordinating to do. And I'm like, so what? And it has nothing to do with the business. So I'm kind of like calling her on her stuff. So what kind of event is this anyway? Does this have to do with our business? And she's like, no, there's this bunch of people that are going skydiving. And I didn't let her finish her sentence. I literally, my birthday, this was on Thursday and my birthday was on Sunday. And I interrupted her and I said, can I go? Can I go? I want to jump out of an airplane. I want to jump out of an airplane for my birthday. And my birthday is in like 3 or 4 days. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be inviting myself, which also is outside my comfort zone because I don't invite myself to things uninvited, right? I have to be welcomed in. You have to pull me in to your little circle. But I found myself inviting myself to go skydiving with her and her friends. And she graciously said yes, which was awesome. And so then I'm excited. So then I know, because sane people don't jump out of airplanes, I need to make sure I do this. So I put on Facebook, while we were still on the phone, I'm going to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. And I post stuff on Facebook all the time because I'm trying to build a following for my business. If people get curious, then maybe they'll ask me what I do, blah, blah. And crickets most of the time. Nobody comments on my stuff. Nobody likes, you know what I mean? I don't know if the algorithm is showing it to people. I've got almost 5,000 friends and I get so little traction. And within seconds, I had like 10 people going, oh my God, you're going to jump out of an airplane. So it's like, woohoo, I put it out there and people are watching me. And now I have to jump out of the airplane. So as soon as we hung up from our call, I called the skydiving place and booked my reservation. So now I've got money put down. It's on Facebook. They will let you back out literally right until it's time to jump out of the airplane. But at this point, I'm committed enough. There's no way I'm going to do it no matter how terrified I am.
So basically, you had only 4 days in advance to think about this then? You did this on a Thursday and the jump was that weekend?
The jump was on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the birthday was Sunday, but everybody was going on Saturday. So I'm going with a group of people. And I get to where we're going, and it turns out my friend wasn't jumping out of the airplane. She was in the Air Force. She had plenty of airplanes during her younger days, and she was just there to hang out with the people and have fun. So I was actually jumping with people I didn't know, which was also, that's a tough thing for me to meet new people. That is outside my comfort zone. And so everything is outside my comfort zone, everything about it. Inviting myself to go, jumping with people I don't know. I didn't have a friend in the bunch when we started. Right? Now we're all bonded together because we had this experience. But going into it, I'm just this person who inserted themselves into their group and it was a fun time. God only knows what they were thinking of me. But I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. And it's weird, the things about it that were scary were not necessarily the things I thought would be. There were different things that caused discomfort.
Mm-hmm. So even just getting on the plane, I guess you were all suited up, geared up, or there had to be some preparation.
They put a harness on you. Again, this is a commercial enterprise, so they're moving people through. Boom, 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 boom. They put the harness on you, and so the first thing you're aware of is, I don't have a parachute. Well, I don't need a parachute because the other guy's got the parachute, right? But that thought goes through your head. I don't have a parachute. And so you're on there, and like I'm sitting in front of him, and we're straddling this bench, and he's behind me, and he's close, but he's not close enough, right? My harness is hooked to his, but it's really loose. And that was one of the things that actually freaked me out. And I turned to him, and I said, I don't feel like I'm belted tightly enough to you. If something goes wrong here, I'm going to go flapping around in the breeze, and I weigh enough that we're going to be going fast. And he's just like, relax, I got it. And when we got closer to when we were jumping, then he cinched me up tight to him. And I mean, he knew the drill and he knew when and all that. But as we're going up and I'm in there, I'm like, we're barely connected here. And that was scary because you don't know what to expect. But by the time we were ready to go, I was cinched up very tightly to him. We were not social distancing. It was not COVID-19 time in that airplane.
Well, let me ask you this: when you were at that point, were you having second thoughts?
Not really. I mean, I wasn't going to back out at that point. Once you've made that mental decision, you just follow through.
Okay.
But so I'm a believer, and I was texting my gals in my Bible study to pray for me. Specifically, what I was praying for was a nice, soft landing.
I have got to just interject that I'm sure that that's probably the most unique prayer request that they had ever received.
Well, here's the thing. So you're skydiving and something goes wrong. What my son said to me, and because he's the master of puns, I wish you could interview him sometime because he's just so punny. But he said, "Don't worry about it, Mom. Once you jump out of the plane, if something goes wrong, you have got the rest of your life to figure it out." And that's true. So I'm thinking, if something goes wrong, I'm going to die fast. I'm really not going to feel pain for more than a millisecond. So then the thought going through your head is, well, what if I get maimed? That's the terror. Not that I'm going to die, but what if I get horribly maimed? What if I end up like just a notch above a vegetable so that I'm aware enough that I can't participate in living life with all my physical capabilities that I'm used to? So that's the thing that goes through your head more so than dying. So the nice soft landing, if I have a nice soft landing, I'm not going to be maimed. I'm not going to be a notch above semi-conscious, or you know what I mean? That's why that prayer was there. I'm not even going to have the broken tailbone. If there's enough wind, you get to come in and you land on your feet and you just kind of run. You hit the ground running. And if there's not enough wind, you lift up your feet so they're parallel, kind of like doing a sit-up with your legs straight. And then you slide in to this gravel, which they're like, there's some nice soft gravel here for you if that happens. And I'm thinking, gravel's not soft. What makes you think gravel's soft? I mean, all the self-talk is going on right there.
Right.
And there wasn't enough wind to do the standing one. And so we lifted up our feet and it was like sliding into base when you're playing baseball or softball, but it was in slow motion. It was way slower than what you slide into base. And so it was just boom. Then I'm like rubbery, right? You know how your legs are just spaghetti when you do something that's just terrifying.
Right, and all that adrenaline, yeah.
And you saw the video, I showed you the video. I'm just sitting there, just on the gravel, looking up, going, wow, I did that. And I could see somebody else's parachute coming down. And we got to watch like the group before us land. They didn't land that slow. They landed in normal speed, but when I was landing, I landed in slow motion. So I think that's God's grace, because it literally felt like slow motion. And it feels like slow motion a lot of the times in the air. And that's just, I had done a hot air balloon ride also. That's not a scary thing. It's just a cool thing. It was on a bucket list. And I've got some friends who do the launch directors at the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. And I got to go up in one of the balloons. And you're moving faster than you think. It feels like you're staying still. But when you kind of look at where you were and where you are and how high you are, it's like that. And so, but the whole thing coming down, once the chute opened, and that's the key words, once the chute opened, it really felt like slow motion.
So even though your legs were shaking and you're watching everybody else come down, and that's really cool, what was going through your head? I mean, did you feel exhilarated? Did you feel relieved? Did you feel like, oh my gosh, I got to go to the bathroom? I mean, what did you
All of the above.
Oh,
all of the above. Absolutely. And I was also thinking, and I made the decision, I had done something once and I didn't get the video of it, so I couldn't relive it. And that was a regret. So I knew going in, no matter what the video cost, no matter what the pictures cost, I want that. I want to relive this thing over and over and over. And it's like, I can't wait to see the video so I can relive it when I'm not scared, which was kind of cool. So that was going through my head too. This is something I get to, but yeah, and I did it. I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane. Now what's next? How do I top that? What am I going to do next weekend?
Yeah. Right? I mean, how do you top that?
I don't know. There's lots of ways to overcome your comfort zone. There's lots of opportunities. One of the things that was most surprising about that, and for me, I have literally a phobia. A phobia is an irrational fear of making phone calls. It's just horrible and debilitating as a business owner to not be able to pick up the phone sometimes and have a conversation with somebody. Now, I will have days where I can do it and I'm on fire and I will just tear it up making those calls. But I will have other days where it is incapacitating to me. And making a flipping phone call. You can't get hurt making a phone call. Nobody can punch you out when you're making a phone call. Most people are delighted for human connection.
Mhm.
There's no reason to fear that. So that's how I know it's a phobia. I literally felt about the exact same amount of, like, how you feel in your body, in
Mhm.
my stomach where
Mhm.
the somersaults are happening and all that. The phone call was no different than the skydiving. There was
Even after the
no
skydiving.
well, after the skydiving, it wasn't as traumatic on the phone. Oh,
Ah,
it
okay.
has helped me. So again, those big breakthrough experiences.
Mhm.
And so I have been making now what I love about living now in our day and age is texting is not traumatic.
Mhm.
Texting is not traumatic. So I can do a ton of stuff by texting. My grandkids live with me and they can be loud. And so texting is good because there's no kids in the background. So I get to come off as much more professional than the chaos that is going on in my home. But
Right.
there are times where a phone call is necessary. So it's been way easier for me to pick up the phone, smile and dial, do what I need to do to get business done, or to just reach out to people. And there's people in my life that I know need connection.
Mhm.
And if somebody needs connection, they're not necessarily the ones who are going to reach out. And I think during this time of COVID, just as a ministry to other people, just to
Mhm.
reach out, see how they're doing. Again, 90% of the time I do it by text, but every now and then I'll pick up the phone. And now that I'm starting to get out more, I'm going out to coffee,
Mhm. Oh,
which
good.
is what I used to do before. And it was something I really liked. And it gets me out of the house and it gets me with adults. And
Mhm.
then I can have something decadent at the Starbucks or whatever. So
Mhm.
it's been good, but it all starts with an invitation.
Mhm.
And that means picking up the phone. So I think the skydiving has definitely helped.
Would you recommend it to people?
Yeah, I would. I would recommend it to people. I was surprised, like, if you get motion sick, maybe
Mhm.
get the patch.
Ah,
Because I was nauseous after we landed for about an hour, and everybody who was a first time skydiver had the same experience.
do you think that that was from the motion itself, or do you think maybe it was from that rush of adrenaline, going into that sympathetic nervous system, even though it was so exciting to do that, and then finally, coming down from that, because that could even make you nauseous, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I do know I tend to get motion sick.
Okay.
You're in a very small plane and there's a lot of turbulence. So there were some people who were feeling sick just in the plane, just getting up to altitude because we jumped from 12,000 feet. There were, when you came down, they were kind of going in circles.
Hmm.
So you're not just looking at the landing space at the airport, which
Oh,
is just this brown patch of earth. We
right.
were we were near Canyon City. The mountains are gorgeous.
Yeah.
Let's look at those beautiful mountains. So we're kind of going in circles as we're going down. So I think traveling down and in circles. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that could have caused it. I just know that was a little uncomfortable, which is why I don't feel like I need to go out and do it again right away.
Hmm.
As
Okay.
empowering as it was. And now I know it's going to make me sick to my stomach a little bit. Okay,
Hmm.
well, there's other things I can do to get a rush of adrenaline. Like
Hmm.
I love whitewater rafting. I would rather go whitewater rafting, get my adrenaline rush that way.
Hmm.
And when the rapids are high and you're going down into that trough and it's 8 or 10
Oh,
feet, and part of your head screaming, "You're gonna die! You're gonna die! We're all gonna die! The boat's gonna tackle! You're gonna get flipped out!" And then the other part's going, "This is a commercial enterprise. They have 38,000 people a week go down this river.
yeah.
If it wasn't completely safe, you wouldn't be here in this boat with a commercial guide." So, but I can get that same rush, and the experience lasts longer.
Hmm.
So for me, I would rather whitewater raft than do the skydiving.
Well, and
I,
plus you've got the video. You can always watch the video over again.
yeah, and they do sell the videos for the whitewater rafting too, but they just do one rapid,
Hmm.
which is so you get to see one rapid, and
Yeah.
that's
Apparently, there are so many really important life lessons in this experience. Number one is mindset.
yeah.
And just to have that kind of a mindset that you're going to embrace your getting out of your comfort zone, because you do that a lot.
I do.
And
I
once you get
really
out of your comfort zone, I mean, it's number one, it's terribly uncomfortable, and you don't know what the results are going to be. But you do that over and over again, and I just really admire that. And that's another reason why I think you're so courageous. And it goes back to the two friends that you had, who both had the exact same injury, and the one was in a wheelchair for 5 to 6 months, and the other one was like, I'm getting over this so I can get back to the things that I love to do and want to do. So mindset is everything, and
yes.
passion. And the one friend of yours that was, I'm going to get out and do what I want to do, she had the passion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's really important to find things in your life that really light your fire, so to speak, or just, ring your chimes or something that you're passionate about.
There you
And
go.
the other thing was you're talking about inspirations and intentions, and especially how that applies to business, because you've got this business group. So tell us about your business.
I'm going to just read this because I typed it out and it sounds so eloquent when I do
Woo,
it this way.
well, go for it.
Yes, I have partnered with a tech company that is biohacking the aging code. We help people who prefer to age gracefully and those who want to delay dysfunction to enjoy a significantly better quality of life. 10,000 people a day turn 65, according to one of my friends who's in the business of selling those supplemental insurance plans to people who are over 65.
Right.
I know you know who I'm talking about.
Right.
And he always say 10,000 baby boomers a day turn 65. Well, let's do it gracefully. You're aging gracefully, and you've got a best-selling book on aging gracefully, and part of it is being fit and all of those things. But then there's people like me, I'm not fit, and I'm not there yet. So if I can just take a couple activators and maybe get some of the same benefits without all the hard work and the discipline, I'm going to take my shortcut. And so I don't have a lot of the maladies that you maybe would expect for somebody of my age, because
there's a different kind of fitness, Shelly, that I think that you don't give yourself enough credit for, because if you're running after two little grandkids all day and running a business at the same time and still managing to jump out of an airplane, you've got a lot more going for you in the means of fitness and health and physicality than you're giving yourself credit for, I think.
Okay. Well, thank you. I just feel like that's just everyday stuff. Everybody can do that. I feel like anybody could do that. It doesn't seem like that's,
not really.
Here you are this, okay. Well, and I know like you've got all these black belts and, God help the guy who tries to overpower you in a dark alley, because he's going to come out
I keep waiting.
limping and, oh, I know. It's just, there's some people, if you ever in a situation, who would I want to be with? And you get to the top of that list, right? Not that I put myself in those situations. So I see you as like somebody who's super fit and graceful. So you've got the ninja stuff with the martial arts and the ballet. And both of those are, to me, extreme physical. They're both very demanding physically and mentally. And I look at that and I just go, wow, that is so flippin' out there for me. Like you think jumping out of the airplane, I'm going, no, because that's not just a one afternoon thing. Yeah. That's every day, day after day, month after month, year after year after year after year after year.
I have to tell you, even with all of those trainings and everything, running after two little kids is really different. 10 years ago, I was spending a lot of time back home in Western Pennsylvania. Both my parents were sick at the same time. So not only was I juggling two parents who were really quite ill, but functional, at the same time, I was helping my younger sister with her two little kids, because she was a single mom. She had two kids. At the time, they were 8 and 9. Lots of energy. And so I would take them to the park. We would play ninja games in the park. We'd, do a lot of things. And it's like, I'm exhausted. I need to go home and get some rest, go back to Denver. So it's a different kind of energy and a different kind of demand on body, mind, spirit, and everything.
Yeah, it is exhausting some days. I will grant you that. But it is also very rewarding.
And tell us how old they are.
So Nakoa is 5 and Leah will be 3 on October 2nd. So probably by the time this airs, she'll be 3 years old.
And I think I heard a piping little voice in the background.
It's possible. I've got the earphones in. I asked my son to keep them quiet. It's harder than you think. That's like saying, why don't you build one of the Great Pyramids of Egypt from scratch and get it done in a week? It's the same kind of demand. Can you keep those two quiet? It's really hard.
The sound of a little kid's voice just tickles me. It's like, how could you hear a kid talking or laughing in that piping little voice and not just feel like, uplifted and just make it, I don't care if you're having, what kind of a day you're having. It makes me laugh and it just makes me smile.
What's interesting is they say kids laugh like 40 sometimes a day. It's like insane the number of times kids laugh. And I've just recently started a practice in the morning called laugh yoga, where you make yourself laugh and you just sit there and laugh for a minute or two and just full belly laugh all out. And they just do that all the time. They make themselves giggle, and then they set each other off, and they laugh some more. And usually when they're doing it, I know they're doing something they shouldn't.
Well, of course.
And a lot of times it's preceded by 4-letter words that they're experimenting with saying and stuff, and then that makes them really just hilariously cackle. But it is fun to hear that giggling.
How can people find you, especially on your Facebook page? Because I'll just bet the listeners are going to want to look you up and watch the video. It is on, you did post the video, didn't you, on Facebook?
I did. So yeah, look me up on Facebook. My website, which won't have the video, but if you're interested in anti-aging, is healthandwealth.lifevantage.com.
Okay.
Or reach out to you, and you can reach out to me and connect this. I am so passionate about sharing.
Yes,
how to have a better quality of life with people. I mean, that lights me up. And there's so many people that are suffering needlessly, and they don't have to. They don't have to. There are some simple, proactive things you can do to just change your life. And that's physically, that's mentally with some of the stuff that we're doing with the breakthrough challenges. Financially, spiritually, there's a lot of different ways you can have an impact on your life. And I've got some good resources for several of the different categories. So
excellent. Well, thank you, Shelly. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you for inviting me. This was fun. It's kind of fun to talk about it and get the lessons out of it.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. And make sure you check out Shelly's website, check out her Facebook page, and just remember to try new things and do things that really put you out of your comfort zone, because there are so many life lessons that do come out of it, and that is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.